Thank you for that great introduction. Yes. I am so excited to be here and to see you all. So what I want to tell you today, I kind of tricked you when I said, is the world better than you think? Of course, I think it is. I'm in the one category of all of those of us who think the world is better, who think it's awesome, it's a great place. We can do what we want to do, we're grateful. But then there's also another category, the category I used to belong to before I became a positive person. In this category, I thought the world is not all that great. Sometimes I thought the world was a horrible place. So it just depended on the day in the news. If you're in that category, I want to talk to you. If you're in the other category, we need your help. Spread the word. Spread this information. Inspire and lift up the people in category 2. People in category 2, here's a couple of things I want to share with you. You may have heard this before, but these are new numbers. These are the 2015 numbers that the World Giving Index released. In it, we find out that of the 4 billion adults in the world, 1 billion volunteer, 1/4. Of these 4 billion, 1.5 of them give money charitably. This is phenomenal. Think about that. And half of the adults in the world are helping someone, a complete stranger. This matters that it's a complete stranger, because it says something very important about us. We think that we're self-interested, right? Do we all agree that self-interest is a big drive? I mean, we're Toastmasters. We even read that in our book. Make sure there's something in it for the audience so that they're interested in your speech, because we know we care about ourselves. Where did that come from? Do we assume that this is a natural observation of human beings? What do you think?
Yep.
Thank you. This is not true. This comes from Hobbes. Not Hobbes of Calvin and Hobbes. It comes from the 17th century philosopher Thomas Hobbes, who had a very, very low opinion of human beings. He said we're brutish unless the state takes charge of us. He was in favor of the monarchy. So we adopted this because he was very convincing. He convinced all the other thinkers in his century. This became adopted. We passed this on and on and on, and 400 years later we think we're self-interested. Now the good news is that the University of Kansas did some research on that. So they gave their subjects an opportunity to opt out if they saw someone in distress, that person is going to be taken care of. You don't have to take care of them. So then they asked the people who were participants how they had felt when they saw the person that needed the help. So of those people who said that they felt distressed, 67% opted out when they could. They didn't help. So Hobbes was right that when we are helping people, Hobbes was wrong. When we're helping people because we want to relieve our own distress at their distress, it's completely false. If we don't have to help, we won't, 67% of us. Now, what about the people who reported feeling empathy? You want to guess how many people opted out of helping? What percentage? 17. 17% of the people who reported feeling empathy opted out of helping. The rest helped. So what that shows us is that we are altruistic. That's what's true about us. We are capable of empathy, and this empathy makes us altruistic, to help for the sake of the other person, not for our own sake. So we really, really need to update our understanding of human nature. It's 400 years old. We didn't understand a lot about human beings like we do now with neuroscience and with all this fantastic research, with how science is so rigorous and can really drill down to what the facts are. Why does this matter? Why should you update your perception of human beings? It's because what's in the culture is contagious. So how the culture is portrayed to us is contagious. So if we see everybody's selfish, we become more selfish. If we see there's generosity and goodness, we ourselves become more generous and better. So now that you know that we are basically good human beings, I want to invite you to notice the good around you. I'm not talking to those of us who already know that. You just need to spread the word. Those of us who are not noticing all the good because we're completely mesmerized by the media's disproportionate reporting of negative news, unplug, or just don't take it as seriously. Start noticing the good around you, because this is what happens. You yourself trigger ripple effects because you're infected, like, yeah, look this good that I just noticed. Well, now I'm just going to naturally be good to another person. You start a ripple effect that triggers untold other ripple effects. And when that happens, the world becomes better than us. Now, I want to open it up to Q&A. I didn't use my whole 10 minutes. What did I actually use?
6 minutes and
Good job. All right. I didn't even rush through it. I like it. So, I'd love to open it up. You know, this is an opposition talk.
This is not a particularly opposite point of view, but I'm curious how pity enters into this. If we feel pity for someone, because our dictionary definition of pity is they don't have any hope. And so trying to help somebody who's helpless, who doesn't have any hope, how does that play into our empathy? Well,
So you're saying what role does pity play?
No, I'm saying if I pity somebody who's dying from cancer,
right?
if I pity that person, I'm considering that person beyond help. So how does my empathy come into play when somebody's beyond hope of being helped?
I like your question, thank you. We've all heard the question, right? So I would say, just looking at that, so I don't know what the research is on that, and if there is even any research done on it. But I would say that help is the operative word here, right? So if you see somebody who has cancer and is terminal with cancer, and you feel pity for them, you can still help them, even if you can't cure them, because help is relative, right? Is a touch on the arm or on the hand help? It's just standing there and saying, hello, help. So I would say that if you feel empathy, if seeing this person maybe in a hospital bed, if you see this person and it triggers your empathy, you're likely to want to do something to make things better for them.
You're gonna do it better.
And then, okay, so does this answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you. Leah?
I have a historical question. I feel like in the context of the 17th century, Hobbes's world may have been quite violent, and I feel like man has evolved since then. Are there any recent studies that show an evolution in man's, that shows we are more compassionate now, less violent than the world that Hobbes lived in.
Yeah, are we less violent and are we more compassionate? I was interested in the same thing. It wasn't part of the narrow focus of my speech, so I didn't look it up myself, but this question arose for me too. Were we just brutish back then? The way I answered it to myself in lieu of having facts, if there are any, was that it's unlikely. Maybe we went through a time where we were more brutish. But if you look back way before recorded history, or even maybe not that far back, but people obviously were cooperating with each other in order to even build any level of society. And this kind of cooperation, Hobbes was saying, is self-interested, and today's research shows is not always self-interested. So I doubt that the human nature has fundamentally changed, and I think scientists agree that it fundamentally is the same. But our conditions and what we do with this human nature certainly changes over time. Sometimes things are better, sometimes things are not as good. And I do think that Hobbes was influenced by the very fact that he had a really bad upbringing. He said that two people were born when his mother gave birth to him and fear. Right? That's the guy who shaped our understanding of human nature. There's a really cool book, 12 Intellectuals, that shows you what kind of human beings these very important people were that are shaping our understanding. And if I knew any of them personally, I would not believe anything they said. They were kind of bastards. That aside, I'd love to hear another question. Challenge me. Oh, of course you.
Actually, no. I actually want to back up your premise. I was involved in a meditative practice a couple of years ago, and I was less busy, and I was poorer, but I was happier. And now I'm busier and I'm wealthier, but not happier. So I'd like to back that up. I mean, the problem is it is 2 hours a day. So it's a long time, you know. And but I find what you say to be true.
Thank you for that. So kind of what I'm thinking about when I'm hearing what you're saying is that I do also meditation, and I don't meditate all the time. And I'm noticing that when I meditate, I'm more able to see the good in the world because something slows down and it's sort of like I'm just noticing, I become more present. And I think becoming more present, not being so like, oh, some, drowning and stuff, then it's easier to notice the good in the world and to become a change agent because of that social contagion. So thank you for that. Other questions? Challenge me. How am I wrong?
Go ahead, Bruce, you read that political book.
Leroy.
One of the few things I remember from my years in education was the concept of psychological hedonism, which you're saying is not correct in fact, that we do things because it makes us feel better. And you're saying that they've determined that's not the case. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think self-interest is an evolutionary thing that's happened, and after we have the genetic evolution, we have social evolution and cultural evolution. But it's still, people make decisions based on what affects their pocketbook and what affects them, and it makes me feel good when I help somebody. Does that make me less altruistic? I don't know.
Well, as the research has shown, it depends. So it may make you feel good because you're self-interested in that moment. But if you are helping someone and empathy is present, then it's not self-interest. Then it's the empathy, and then it's altruistic. So it just depends on what your emotional motivation is. Thank you. Do you have a question?
I have a question.
Yes.
At what point does helping become enabling?
We're going off topic here, but I don't mind. at what point does helping become enabling? It's a really popular sort of idea that we can be enabling people. I think that helping and enabling are completely separate from each other. So the outcome will tell you. If somebody's helped, you're helping. If somebody's not helped, then you're either not helping or you're enabling them. So I think that when you look at the outcome, you get your answer there. Does that answer your question?
It does, for me, that was a very good answer.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very
Do you
good
have a
question.
question?
So you are, the title of your speech is the world better than you think? And you're saying that we don't choose to be good or to do good things because of our own self-interest, because of empathy, right?
I emphasized that. Of course, we also choose to help out of self-interest.
Yes, but that
So it
was
depends.
Yeah.
When it's empathy is present, then it's not self-interest, but altruism.
So how does someone who is lacking empathy go on to make positive changes, or do they need, can they, or are they just in a category?
You're talking about the psychopath, sociopath?
Not like a total sociopath, but someone who is just maybe your opposition to this viewpoint. That's how do those people then develop empathy and start feeling like they can make positive changes?
They're making positive changes out of self-interest. I'll take it any way you get it. Right? But the people who think the world is a bad place are not motivated by people making the world better because they're self-interested. They're the opposite of that. So that's why I'm not saying, hey, guess what? People who don't give a shit about you make the world better because it helps them. This doesn't make to switch you from one place to the other. And that's, of course, the job I'm trying to pursue here, is that instead of thinking the world sucks, so why should I try to make it better? I'm saying, hey, come over here where you're seeing how amazing the world is, how amazing we are as human beings. My time is up. Thank you all for your questions.
Homer, if I can have 1 minute for evaluations.